My name is Melinda Sampson. I'm the Customary Care Coordinator with Kinship-first Child and Family Services.
Ani, my name is Maureen Manitowabi, and also known as Zun Wewe Kwe Dishnakas Makwa Dodem, Wikwem Kong Donji. Our topic today is customary care. And what is customary care? Customary care is a traditional practice that's been practiced among our First Nations here on Manitoulin Island and surrounding areas. Anishinaabe Nagdawendwok is what we say in our language, our people looking after our own. Customary care is a traditional practice that has always existed among the Anishinaabe. Today, this informal practice is alive, whereby communities care for and protect the children without the intervention of child welfare authorities. Customary care is based on our Anishinaabe cultural belief system. It is a program that recognizes and respects inherent rights of the Anishinaabe. When I say inherent rights of the Anishinaabe, we've always existed here since time immemorial. The Anishinaabe child is a gift from the Creator. The child represents all creation. Its place is in the center and must always remain our focus. So in our traditional sacred laws, our natural laws is what our Anishinaabe belief system is. It represents the Naknagewin, which means our traditional laws that we go by, and customary care represents when families intervened. We didn't have child welfare back then. What we had was the community would intervene on their own. There was traditional practices where if women could not bear children, and if children were without parents, then this is where the children would be placed. So it was a community decision, and the elders and the government of our First Nations would come together and decide on how these children were placed within the community. Customary care is practiced formally now with Kinigabeshkaming. And if a child is deemed in need of protection, as identified by Kinigabeshkaming Child and Family Services, or the courts and the respective First Nation. The First Nation declares that the children be cared for under a customary care agreement through a band council resolution. The band council resolution is our legal agreement with the band. Our historical practices are the foundation to formal customary care. The sacred laws that I like to talk about is from the eastern doorway. In the creation story, the spirit of that child comes forward and stands on the eastern doorway, and they choose their parents through creation. So that child comes in and decides who their parents are going to be, and then the child comes into the family's spiritual bundle. And the sacred bundle is that family bundle, and the child is that sacred bundle. So when we present the customary care, that's what we follow, is that sacred bundle of that child. That child remains the focus. That child becomes the sacred doorway of the family unit. It comes into the path of that family. So when we acknowledge those spiritual realms of how things are decided upon by creation, then that's what those are our sacred laws. And one time, I can talk about how I grew up with customary care. A lot of my cousins were cared for by my grandparents or my aunts and my uncles. And all through my childhood, I always thought my cousins were my uncles, but they weren't. They were actually children that were customary cared by their extended family. So the government definition, customary care means the care and supervision of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis by a person who is not the child's parent according to the custom of the child's band or First Nations, Inuit, or Métis community. A lot of our laws have changed because the general laws of application do not apply on reserve because we have our own laws. So the government has a duty to consult to ensure that the band knows where their children are being placed. So that's why we've went with customary care. The band wants to know where each child has been placed within their existing agency. They want to know each time the child is being moved. They want to know when the child is being removed from a foster home, an existing family home. So the band council resolution is that authority, and it brings the parties together, and they also represent an agreement when we do a formal customary care agreement. What is the First Nations customs regarding customary care? Every First Nation has their unique governmental aspects of each First Nation. We work with all the First Nations on the island. We work with a lot of the First Nations to see how they want to do their customary care. We have a great dialogue with the band representatives. We do a lot of work with the band, and they each has a band representative. If it's not the smaller bands, we'll work with the chief. Usually the chief Ogima is the one that we work with the smaller bands. So we have a lot of dialogue with all the First Nations with customary care.
The developments of customary care. In 2006, Bill 210, a legislative amendment to the CFSA and the Provincial Child Welfare Transformation Agenda, placed focus on alternative initiatives which include customary care. 2007, the chiefs of the United Chief and Council of Nodona-Singh and Wikwemikong Unceded Indian Reserve issue a resolution to develop and approve a formal customary care service manual. 2008, customary care is an available option to all Anishinaabeg families registered or entitled to be registered from UCCMM and WUIR. 2012, customary care is a service available with Kinnicabeshkimi Child and Family Services.
So we're just talking about the developments of customary care. Back in 1984, the government proposed some legislations with First Nations. The First Nations were not ready at the time. They did a lot of prevention work with the First Nations. So a lot of prevention monies were allocated to the First Nations. And then in 1993, the UCCM decided to start their agency with Kinnicabeshkimi. So that's when Kinnicabeshkimi started back in 1993. And then 1993, and it took this long for them to decide how they were going to do child welfare with the First Nations. So we got mandated in 2015. So 2015. So and during those times, there was a lot of developments with the chiefs of UCCM and Wikwemikong. And when we do our customary care service model, how does it work? Together, the parents, the band representative, and KINA decide on a suitable family to help raise the child. Customary Care Agreement is a voluntary program, and it is for short or long term, and is the best interest of the child and the family. So the child is the center of the circle of care, and we have our parents and extended family, our First Nation, and then Kinnickabeshkaming.
Children who are deemed in need of protection by Kinnickabeshkaming Child and Family Services require an out-of-home placement. A referral, a letter documentation from the band representative or chief in accordance with an agreement identifying the child or parents and placement. Chief and council endorse the placement with a band council resolution, a BCR, a formal First Nation document, other First Nation resolution, a BCR resolution or declaration. Placement can occur with the customary care provider immediately through a designated place of safety, with a home study to be completed within 60 days. A foster home licensing standards apply.
So those are the requirements that we utilize for customary care. We deal with, when we first came into customary care in 2012, they started doing the work, and then we had our first, I think we had a first couple of agreements that were brought up between 2012 and 2015 with our existing Children's Aid Society in Little Current. And I remember I went in as a part-time to replace the existing customary care, and so they had one child that was being returned to a mother, and when I got seconded by Kina, I was working for Wicomakong Unceded Indian Reserve at the time, and in the prevention unit, and when I did the first meeting, we did ceremony. I asked a pipe carrier at the time. It was Lillian McGregor, our elder from Birch Island, Whitefish River, and I asked someone to come and light the fire, the sacred fire, for us. So that's what we did, was we went with ceremony, and she smoked the pipe at the time, and we had all our medicines, and the Children's Aid Society was there from Little Current and Sudbury, and so we sat around the table with all the signatories to the agreement, and we came out with a good resolution to have the child reunited with their family. So it was a good day, that first reunification, and that child is still with their family today, that I'm aware of, anyways. So the requirements, sometimes I do with Kumakong, Melinda does the other 6 nations, and then we went into a second phase of Kinnickabeshkaming, and we're doing families within that existing, that are within the Sudbury Manitoulin. So if we have families that are from Timmins, Kenora, families that are involved with our agency, and then we have a third worker, Nikki Williams, that does the second phase, which is the other First Nations that are residing in our jurisdiction. When we have a selection process, customary care is voluntary, and the required signatures on the agreement is the First Nation. The parents have to be involved, the child who is 12 years and older, a customary care provider who has been identified, and usually it's the family member, Kinnickabeshkaming, or other Children's Aid Societies. So we do work with other Children's Aid Societies, and sometimes we'll have those files transferred into our jurisdiction. So when we do our selection process, we always ensure that we seek family first within that family circle of care. If we can't find family, then we'll find a community member within that existing First Nation. And if we can't find a community member, then we'll go outside another First Nation family on reserve. And if we can't find family there, then we'll go to another First Nation family off the reserve. So most of our families that are coming forward with customary care are off-reserve families that are living in urban areas. We'll have the odd home on reserve, and sometimes we'll have cases that are within Ontario. So I travel to Peterborough, Windsor, Woodstock, wherever cases are available. That's where if we have a customary care home, that's where we do our visits with children. We have our annual reviews. So supports, we have a lot of supports. We have a lot of services with family, the caregivers, the community. We have supports and subsidies for customary care placements with the children in care. We have standards that we have to follow, child care standards, foster care standards. A customary care home will be paid as a regular or specialized foster care rate in accordance to the child's needs. So what are the obstacles and challenges in customary care as coordinators? It's one of the challenges that we face are the high needs of children. We have a hard time finding placements for children with high needs, and medical needs. With this pandemic, this COVID, I'm finding out that there's more mental health and addictions. And so we have a lot of children that are being born with addicted parents, or they're being born with mom being addicted to opiates, cocaine. So those are things that we are being challenged with, is finding homes that will look after infants. We have to find specialized homes out of jurisdiction, where we seem to be going out to Southern Ontario for OPR homes. We want to ensure that we try to find homes in this area. Sometimes we can't find homes. Sometimes we'll even access our neighboring CAS homes for specialized homes for, I had to find a home for a child that was being tube fed, and then those needs are being a lot of times families don't want to do that when they have to tube feed. You have to clean the tube, so it's a lot of care and a lot of thought when we look for homes for our children that are high needs. That's a big challenge. Another challenge that we're finding is Melinda came up with a declaration, because now with our second phase that we're being faced with, we are being challenged with having dialogue with First Nations in northern remote areas. And a lot of these remote First Nations don't have good Wi-Fi. We have a hard time with the faxes. Just
communicating with them.
The communication
as well,
is such a big barrier with the fly-in communities. Like if we have families that are from Petanjacum, for instance, or Fort Albany, those are we're finding that it's hard, because some of these workers that are working in those areas, a lot of times it's the chief, and most of the times the chief is out of the community doing their work. So it's those things that we're finding. And a lot of times the First Nations will not sign a band council resolution. So that's what Melinda had come up with, was a declaration. The positive outcomes for customary care is the parental rights are maintained and the connection is with family. The child is left in the community. The child is allowed to stay in the community, to be with extended family, the community, and their school and their friends. Court proceedings are not required. Children are not considered in care as per subject timelines. The First Nation band has exercised the inherent jurisdiction and inherent right to look after their own children through this process. It is child-focused. The children remain with their extended family and within their community. Children maintain their identity and way of life. Because before, when children were apprehended by the Children's Aid Society, a lot of times when these children became adults, they came back home to look for their roots, their family. They wanted to find their identity. So that's the reason why we want to do a child focus, because a lot of times family didn't know who these children were when they were coming home. They couldn't validate that this was their child sometimes, because CAS would have a very confidential reasons why things were kept confidential with adoption and when children were in care. So family-based, the relationship between the children, parent, and community is valued and respected, and it's a time for healing that is provided. So when we do the agreement, we're giving that opportunity for the family to take their time to get into their healing. If there's treatment that's available for the family, then they're given that option to take that time when they're doing that agreement. It's community-based. The decision-making is led by the First Nation.
The successes we have with customary care is the children are with family, children are close to their parents, parental involvement is supported and rights are maintained. Customary Care Foundation of Kinnickabesh Child and Family Service model. First Nation families have advocacy, supports from local judges in the court system, no wardship or adoption orders, no long-term court involvement, children return to the families. Challenges are out of jurisdiction repatriation requires additional resources, reluctance by some external CAS agencies to engage in CA, this is decreasing, obtaining consent from parents whom are currently not involved, lack of legal knowledge from court systems, out of jurisdiction courts, home study approvals required for financial supports.
So those are our successes and challenges. A lot of challenges is sometimes we have one window of opportunity where we see the parents, and sometimes we have to kind of get them to sign the agreements. If we don't get them to sign the agreements, then we are looking on the streets for the parents. I remember I went to Sault Ste. Marie, I had to walk the streets of Sault Ste. Marie and Toronto to look for parents to sign the agreements. And some of them are not living some of them are transient, some of them don't have no place to live. So, and sometimes when we are at the hospital, a lot of times they will release themselves from the hospital and then we don't see them again. So sometimes those windows of opportunity, we have to be right on par with everything, because the bands would like the parents, that every attempt has to be made to seek parental involvement. So that's their first and foremost with the bands, is that we have to try to have the parents sign off the agreement. Also, the successes that we find is that we have children are placed with family and extended family. So access is a big thing for Kinnickabesh. To maintain that access is supported with the children and the family. And so our volunteer drivers are very busy with visits with family and children within the customary care or our regular foster care system. The other successes and challenges are
Whether placements are short or long-term customary care agreements. We have good relations with workers and band representatives. Building a rapport with other service agencies such as the specialized services. Cultural resources are offered to clients and homes. Other challenges are customary caregivers are having a difficult time when the children are being returned to parents, especially when it's been a long customary care agreement, a long term. Complex band membership entitlement, high-risk youth, children being placed in specialized care. When children are not entitled to be registered, they're unable to have access to different fundings like Jordan's Principle.
CHRT.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are things that we're having some successes and challenges with is short and long-term placements. Having good relationships with our band representative is a good success because they want to know every time a child is being moved within the agency. They want to know every time when a child is having their access. They want to see, dialogue with family, constant with the child. So it's building a lot of rapport with the family and other agencies. And we have a beautiful cultural department with a lot of resources. So we ensure that they have their spiritual naming ceremony. They have their clan identified. They have their colors identified. We have their inherent right to their identity. So their clan, their colors, their name, their language. We try to have cultural resources available for the children. We have smudge kits available for the children. We have a language app available for the children. We have regalia available for the children so that way they can start dancing at our local powwows in our First Nations. A lot of challenges is the complex band membership. Sometimes a lot of families don't register their children, so it becomes very hard when there's no entitlement involved with the children. So it's very important that our children are registered immediately with the family, and sometimes we'll get the mothers and fathers to sign off on their band membership with the families immediately, if that's not possible, or some parents won't even identify the parentage of the father. So that's another complex issue that we're finding out because they get situated on the band membership in a different category. So there's different categories in the band membership. So some are not entitled, and then if they're not entitled, then the band will not acknowledge their membership. So it gets pretty complex, and it gets pretty hard on doing our work when we have to go with a lot of these challenges that we are faced. But we persevere and we advocate for the children, we advocate for the family, we advocate for the band membership, we advocate. First thing that we ask the workers to do is to make sure, find out their band membership, and then we'll take it from there. So there's the types of agreements that we do with Customary Care. We do the short-term Customary Care agreement, which is extended up to 6 months, and we will go another 6 months up to a year, and the consenting authority remains with the parents. And the other agreement that we have is long-term agreement, and this can be in effect until the child reaches 18 years of age. A case conference must occur with all parties on an annual basis to review the child's placement, planning, and circumstances. Case conference, we have case conference once a year, and the consenting authority remains with the customary care provider, which is usually the extended family. Sometimes we will be challenged that the extended family might want to all of a sudden not do the customary care agreement, so we ask that there will be a 10-day review process and a meeting will be involved. Also, if we can't find a family, if there's another challenge that we have is family breakdowns. The child will break down in that home, so we'll have to look for another new home. So sometimes we'll go with our existing foster care resources with our existing foster care parents. So that's another challenge. So, and then we'll look for family members during the meantime. So when we do our framework, our referral is we get our personal consent from the parents, an acknowledgement, and then we start doing the home study. And sometimes if it's a new home, then we will do a designated place of safety, and then during that time they'll do a home study which will take at least 60 days. A case conference is provided where they do their planning. Band council resolution is referred, and then for the placement. So that's the case conference, and then there's a review. We look at the progress of the family, and then if the family has identified they've addressed their protection concerns, then they get reintegrated into their reintegration plan is provided, or we extend the customary care agreement. And then the case management, we do the ongoing support planning. We either go with the short and long term or reunification and post-care. Post-care is because the family will have to financially reapply for all their financial planning for the child to come into their care. Then we'll do post-care, and we'll help and assist the family until they get back on their feet. So we have that option also for the family. So the review of the agreement.
The review of the agreements. Any signatory may request a review of the agreement. Any signatory may terminate the agreement in accordance with notice and a review of the customary care agreement. And reviews will occur with long-term agreements. The purpose, the progress of the family, reintegration plan, ongoing planning and supports.
When we do our annual reviews, we usually go with the emotional, mental, spirituality, and the physical aspect of our framework. So that helps us identify all the plans for that child. And we also invite all the parties. The parents are involved, so it gives the parents an opportunity to see how their child is doing in the home, how the child is progressing during their customary care agreement, and also it provides a picture of how the child is doing with their well-being, their emotional, mental, physical, and spirituality. So most of the times when we do our reunification, we look at the care and maintenance of the customary care with the parents, the band reps, and the service providers. So together we will determine when the child is able to return home based on the best interests of the child and the family. So those are things that we look for, and then when we look for those positive aspects of the family returning the child back to home, it's a beautiful time for us when we come together and we do that reunification and that transition back with the family. It's a time of celebration for the family, and it's a time of celebration for us workers, it's a positive aspect for when us as workers, when we find that the children are going home with their families. So once it is determined that the children are to be returned, a traditional ceremony will be offered as an official acknowledgement that the sacred responsibility of parenting has been restored as witnessed by the community. So usually we will put the acknowledgement back to the family. Do you want a traditional ceremony to be involved with acknowledging your sacred responsibility? It's all voluntary, so most of the times the families will say yes. Sometimes they just want their children back, and so we acknowledge all that too. The parents will be empowered to lead the preparation for the ceremony and feast as recommended with support, service, and financial supports from the Circle of Care team, including the First Nation community and KGCFS. So when we do our ceremony, we get the family to be involved, the First Nation. They do all the planning. We kind of just support them, and they do all the planning with that celebration of reunification. We call it the reunification ceremony. The reunification ceremony is we go into ceremony, we go into pipe, we do the pipe ceremony, we do a small teaching on the sacred responsibility of parenting. We'll do a water ceremony, the berries, and we also do the sacred fire and the smudging. So we involve the father to be involved in the smudging or the sacred fire. We involve the mother to do the water ceremony, because as women, that is our sacred responsibility, is water, because for the first home for that child is in the mother's womb, and that first home for that child in the mother's womb is that water. That water is that sacred responsibility. So when we go into that circle of care and we come into ceremony, we have to be mindful that that we have to go into ceremony, because when the children come into care, they are an agreement is signed, and that sacred responsibility is given to another provider. So we have to acknowledge creation, that the mother and the father are getting their sacred responsibility back for their parenting. So,
And the
so
blanket
that
ceremony is also used.
the what?
The blanket ceremony. When
Oh, yes, we also do the blanket ceremony. The blanket ceremony represents the sacred responsibility of parenting. So, so we go into ceremony. It's a beautiful time. And after that, we do our feasting and then our gifting. So, when we had our first reunification ceremony with Shishiguaning First Nation, it was a beautiful time. It was very powerful. A lot of tears, lots of crying, because the challenge sometimes is the customary care providers that are looking after children. They have a hard time releasing their parenting for those children, and most times they're aunties and uncles that are looking after their nieces and nephews. So, but they have a connection with their little one. So it's a beautiful time, and a lot of times, sometimes the family will not go with the reunification. They will do their own thing. They will do their acknowledgement at their local powwow. We've done reunification with their local powwow. They come into their powwow. They do an honorary song, and the community acknowledges that return of that child back to the family. So those are things that we look forward to, is the celebration of our children going home to their families. I'd like to say miigwech for giving us the opportunity to talk about customary care. If you have any questions or want to requests for any information. We're happy to acknowledge your interests, and we can be reached at Kinnigabesh Child and Family Services. Customary Care is a program that I like doing because our family did it since time immemorial. So it's all since I can remember. So that's the reason why I like doing customary care, because I believe in our traditions and our customs and our culture. And
My favorite part of customary care is letting the parents know that their parental rights are preserved, that they have a chance to work on themselves, to heal themselves.
yeah,
There's no courts, and the reunifications are my favorite. Seeing the children go back home in the ceremony.
miigwech.
Miigwech.